You probably think you know what a black hole is, right? Some kind of cosmic monster that just eats everything. But what if I told you that's only half the story? Today, we're going to go way beyond what they are and explore how they're actually born, using this incredible three-step recipe that, honestly, might just explain how everything complex in our universe comes to be.
So here's the plan. First, we'll look at black holes through a totally new lens. Then we're going to build one, step by step, starting from the tiniest micro-level quantum noise, cranking it up through a meso-level resonance, and finally locking it all in with a macro-level constraint. After that, we'll dive into the mind-bending information angle and see how this all reveals a universal pattern. Let's do it.
Okay, so the very first thing we have to do is make a mental shift. We need to stop seeing a black hole as just a static thing that sits out there in space and start seeing it as the incredible end result of a dynamic, powerful process of emergence.
Which brings us to the big one. How is a black hole actually born? I mean, these cosmic giants don't just pop into existence fully formed, right? No. They emerge from much simpler, way more chaotic ingredients through a very specific three-step process. And to understand that process, we need a new tool.
That tool is called Constraint Resonance Emergence Theory, or CRET for short. And you can think of it like a universal recipe for creation. It's got three key ingredients. First, you need some random noise. That's your raw material. Second, you need resonance, some kind of feedback loop that amplifies that noise, like a tiny snowball starting to roll downhill and getting bigger and bigger. And third, you need a constraint, a final boundary that stops that runaway process and locks it into a brand new stable form.
So, let's follow that recipe. Our first ingredient is noise. And to build something as massive and orderly as a black hole, we have to start at the smallest, most fundamental level imaginable, the chaotic, bubbling, fluctuating foundation of reality itself. So here you're seeing two ways of looking at the exact same thing. Physics has a very technical description, quantum and thermodynamic fluctuations inside a dying star. But CRET gives us a much simpler handle on it. It just calls all that chaos noise. And we're not talking about sound here. This is the fundamental random energy of the universe that's going to act as the raw material for our black hole. Okay, so we've got our random noise. Now what? Well, now we move to the second stage. And this is where things get really dramatic. This is where a powerful feedback loop takes over and starts to amplify that initial chaos. Big time. And again, two perspectives. Physics calls this runaway self-gravity. Basically, it's the moment a giant star can no longer fight its own crushing weight. CRET calls this resonant amplification, and it's a perfect description. It's a feedback loop. More density creates stronger gravity, which pulls things in tighter, which creates even more density. It's an unstoppable gravitational collapse that's literally feeding on itself. And that's the key right there, a positive feedback loop. It's the engine driving this whole transformation. Each step just makes the next step more intense, pushing the system faster and faster towards a complete and total reorganization. This runaway process is really the heart of the whole CRET model. So, what happens when this runaway feedback process hits its absolute limit? Well, that brings us to our third and final ingredient, the emergence of a brand new, stable order, all defined by an ultimate boundary.
And here's the final step. The collapse hits a point of no return, and boom, the event horizon is born. Physics just calls it a boundary. But CRET gives us this incredible image of a downward constraint. You can think of it like a mold. The runaway collapse is the hot, molten metal, and the event horizon is the mold that instantly cools and shapes it into its final, stable form. It imposes a whole new, permanent set of rules on everything trapped inside, creating the object we call a black hole.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a cool story, but this framework isn't just a neat little narrative. This is where it gets really wild, because it also aligns perfectly with some of the deepest and, frankly, weirdest ideas in all of modern physics, especially when we start talking about information. Think about a book, right? All of its information, the story, the characters, is stored throughout its three-dimensional volume, on all those pages. That's just how we think things work. But black holes completely shatter that idea. All the information about every single thing that has ever fallen into a black hole, it isn't stored inside its 3D volume. It's somehow, impossibly, encoded on its two-dimensional surface, the event horizon. And this is where it all just clicks into place. Foundational ideas in physics, like Bekenstein-Hawking entropy and the holographic principle, they both confirm this bizarre idea that a black hole's information lives on its surface. And CRET gives us a potential why.
It suggests all that internal chaos, the noise, is now perfectly organized by and resonating with that final constraint, the event horizon. The entire 3D interior becomes perfectly encoded on its 2D surface, just like a hologram.
So, we've just built a black hole from scratch with our 3-part recipe. But here is the biggest takeaway of all. This pattern, noise, resonance, and constraint, it isn't some special trick just for making black holes. It seems to be the universe's fundamental blueprint for building complexity at every single scale.
I mean, just look at this emergence pyramid. It's incredible. You start at the very bottom with the noise of quantum fluctuations. The CRET process organizes them into protons and neutrons. Then that same process repeats, building those into atomic nuclei, then into atoms, then stars, all the way up to black holes in the vast cosmic web. Each layer is literally built from the one below it, using the exact same 3-step recipe: noise, resonance, and constraint, over and over again.
This quote just nails it. A black hole isn't just a dead star, it's an emergent, resonant, constraint structure. It's emergent because something totally new was created, resonant because of that runaway gravitational feedback, and constraint because of the event horizon that locked it all into place. A self-organized coherence in space-time. Beautiful.
So, I'll leave you with this question. We've seen this pattern build everything from a single proton all the way up to a galaxy. But this recipe isn't just for physics. Where else in your world? I mean, think about biology, about society, about technology. Where else do you see this fundamental pattern of creation at work? Chaotic noise, getting amplified by some kind of feedback, and then being locked into a new, stable order by a powerful constraint. Once you start looking for it, you start seeing it everywhere.